Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Netling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome everyone to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Netling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to share topics and guests that will help you grow as a confident leader and take your business or your life to the next level. Today, my guest is Nancy Parsons. Let me tell you a little bit about Nancy. Nancy is the CEO and president of CDR Companies. It is a globally recognized expert in combining the science of assessments with the art of developing people. Nancy was the MEECO, MEECO, International Thought Leader of Distinction in Executive Coaching in 2019, and the author of the Amazon bestseller, Women Are Creating the Glass Ceiling and Have the Power to End It. Nancy and her team recently launched CDRU Coach, the first of its kind, an AI-type avatar coach that provides individualized feedback and development for all employees, and was awarded the 2021 Gold Star for Best New Product or Service of the Year by Stevie Awards for Women in Business. Nancy's primary clients include global C-suite members and executive coaches. Today, I thought we'd talk about how inherent risk hold women back. Please join me in welcoming Nancy Parsons. Hey, Nancy.
Hey, thank you, Vicki. Appreciate it.
So you have a lot of things that you've been doing there. That's pretty impressive. And a Stevie Award is nothing to shake a hand to. I mean, goodness gracious. I always start out with an easy question before we get into the meat of things, and just let everybody know, what part of the country do you call home?
I'm in the Houston, Texas area. Our office is in Stafford, so southeast side of Houston.
Nice.
Or southwest side of Houston.
Yeah, so recently I've been to Dallas and Fort Worth. I haven't been to Houston in a few years.
Oh, okay.
But I know it's got a lot going on there.
Absolutely.
So what are personality risk factors that we should be aware of?
Okay. Now, everyone, as you know, everyone has innate strengths, personality, inherent strengths, gifts, to a nuanced level that set you apart from others, and so forth. Well, that's, and everyone has that, and we need to guide our careers towards those strengths. But on the other side of it, we also have inherent risk factors.
Yeah.
These are personality based also, but they show up under stress, conflict, when facing adversity, or if somebody's pushing your button.
Yeah.
Now think about it in business. How often is there stress and pressure? So these are, and the biggest problem is people don't know what the risks are, and they're showing up all the time.
Yeah.
And they undermine our effectiveness without our intention. They're just showing up and kind of getting in the way of, successful relationships, communications, or even our upward mobility.
Yeah, I imagine during the last several years now, 2.5 years, the people that had to do everything from their living room, mom, teacher, coach, whatever, the inherent risk probably started to show up a little bit more.
That's right. More stress, more balls in the air.
Yeah.
So knowing what they are is really important, right? Yeah.
And I saw so many of my friends and coworkers kind of just like throw in the towel type of thing. I have to just cut out something. And it wasn't always the right thing to cut out, but
Yeah, it's true.
their decision. But you get to that point where you just think, I have to get rid of something.
Right. How do I get back to some place that's normal?
Yeah.
You can only, go on overdrive for so long.
Right. Right. And I know I've said this before, but I truly think that COVID was God's way of saying, y'all are just doing too much. So let me just put a little hold on you for a while. Let you reflect a bit.
Yeah. And I think it also gave us a way to think about, do we have to do it this way?
Yeah.
Isn't there another way that we can be doing this? Do we really have to be on the highway an hour and 15 minutes each way every day? Right.
And it's not only the individuals, but it really made companies think twice about it. These companies were trying to buy more properties to expand their home offices because people were overcrowded. And all of a sudden they found, well, maybe I don't need to do that.
Exactly. I know, even in our small business, we always did for executive coaching certification, live workshops, right? Well, now we do virtual. And for that particular purpose, I think it's better because, individual executive coaches, are independent contractors. It's pretty expensive for them to fly around the world or wherever to get to a workshop. So, And what I also what I learned through this was giving them a week to space it out where they're learning content and practicing is much better than 2 days where their head's in a whirlwind.
Yeah.
So the learning is stickable where probably before we were going a little too fast,
Yeah. Well, you're trying to jam it in to make it affordable and whatnot. And also, I love the whole thing of the Zoom rooms and the breakout rooms before, again, you were constrained by the space and the cost of it. So you might have, instead of doing smaller groups, you might have put 10 or 15 people in. Whereas if you had 3 or 5, it would have been much richer conversation, which we found by being able to do these smaller Zoom rooms.
That's right. Absolutely. So fortunately, there were benefits too. I mean, there was a lot of downsides, but an awful lot of benefits for us.
I can't wait to read all about this in years to come of everybody's experiences. I think there's going to be a lot of books written.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have examples of an executive who derailed themselves or became derailed because of his or her risk?
Oh, yeah. One that's most prevalent, believe it or not, and a lot of women do have this, but it's not the most prevalent risk for women, but it's there for many women, is the perfectionist.
Oh, my God.
We measure 11 different risks. The most predominant for women is worrier, but perfectionist. Here's the problem with perfectionists as you move up the ladder, or if you're a business owner, you can't do everything. And these perfectionists, and they're a perfectionist by way of their strengths and their risks. So they kind of double down in their risks, right? Well, I had a CEO who derailed as well, and that was a Canadian-based company, and another CHRO derailed. One was man, one was woman, but the problem was the same. They couldn't let go. They had to be involved in decisions 5-6 levels down. And they drove their people crazy, even their VPs, senior VPs, whatever, drove them absolutely bonkers, wanted reports on the weekends, just micromanage and hovered. And they ended up being terminated for being over-involved in decisions that they shouldn't have been involved with, and just being time wasters. And so I actually, the risks, there's ways you can work on them and get better, increase your batting average. But I would say being a compulsive perfectionist, that's a tough one to tame. That's a tough one because, they just have such an urgent need for all this detail, right?
And nobody can do it as well as they can.
Oh, right. And yes, exactly. So they're controlling, super controlling. And I hate to say it, we also see generally a lot of these high perfectionists or detail people in HR. Often. So,
I was just going to say one of the areas I think also they get stuck is the onboarding process for businesses of any size is so important. And when you get those layers of approval, it just gets ridiculous that instead of days to approve a new person, it might take weeks or months.
Right.
By then that person, that good high quality person, is moved on.
They've taken another job, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to wait for that. And the other thing that happens, we've seen this too. One was actually a VP of sales for another company that was a medical device, right?
Yeah.
He was and first of all, he had no business running sales because he drove salespeople crazy, and they drive the good people out.
Oh yeah,
so not
sure.
only on the onboarding part, but a salesperson doesn't want to be, beaten down with all the details and control. They need space. They're kind of an entrepreneurial inside your organization, right?
Right.
So you really have to be careful. So while those activities can be good at lower levels in leadership and supervision to, in administrative roles, beyond that, the perfectionist can really be problematic if they can't learn to let go.
Yeah. And I think it really backfires in so many ways. One, if you micromanage, then you really are, the person's questioning whether you trust them.
Exactly.
Integrity and whatnot.
Yep. It's opposite of what we want in leadership.
Right.
We have to, we're to help people, to help them achieve, not for us to hover and help them grow, not to stifle them and, and look over their shoulder every minute. I mean,
yeah. And what about the innovation and the creativity? What does it do to that?
I'm working on an article today about that very point, that they're like, I don't know if you've ever heard of Chick Thompson. He wrote this book years ago called What a Great Idea. And he's had a couple of versions of it, how to nurture innovation, but he calls those people boo leaders. Instead of cheerleaders, they're boo leaders. And it always stuck in my head because they shoot down new ideas.
Yeah.
Or they ask so many questions, that combined with what we call a cynic too. Cynics can do that as well. That people say, I am not doing this. It's not worth even trying.
Yeah.
But you said, it's trust. It's that's not how you build trust, or that's not how you show respect for somebody.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's the basics, showing respect for your people.
Can anyone be trained to serve as an effective leader?
No. Period. Another point of my article today is that when we started our business in 1998, one of our taglines was, you can't teach fish to fly. Okay. Now,
that's cool.
But if they have a moderate pulse on it, some people are just more naturally inclined to lead, and that's great. They're easy to work with and develop. You might have somebody who has a moderate pulse. Yes, you can work with them and train them and help them. But give you an example. Years back, Jared Sandberg, who was an author, a writer at the Wall Street Journal, took our assessments. He took 2 other companies' assessments, but he reported this in his article. Out of leadership energy, which you can score up to 100 percentile, he only scored 6 percentile. That means don't even think about a leadership role, right? And he said, I think she's right because my dogs don't even listen to me. But 2 other companies, for his research, he had assessments and feedback with 2 other companies. Both of those companies told him he had leadership capabilities and potential, just need to be developed. And I said, don't even think about it. The point is, you want to help people with where they're really strong, where their gifts are.
Yeah.
We don't want to blow smoke. If somebody doesn't have a leader profile, if you put them in a leadership role, guess what? They're miserable and everybody around them is miserable.
Yeah, right.
And think about it. Some of your best thought leaders, some of your, physicians, surgeons, professors, whoever, nurses, teachers, they don't all want to lead, but they're really good at their craft.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, very true. I had a programmer that had no desire to move up, but so often we find somebody that is good in their job. And so the next step for them is to go into supervision or management, and they suck at it. They're just
and that's where we need to have other tracks for them.
Yes.
Maybe they could be a mentor, a professional mentor, or or something else, serve on a team.
Yeah.
But we don't need to push everybody up the leadership ladder, and that is so wrong. And we shouldn't only honor those who are in leadership. We really need to make sure our individual contributors are our bread and butter.
Right,
they really are.
Sure.
So if we, that's why we did our CDRU coach, so we can coach everyone. You don't have to be a top leader. Everyone should have good feedback and be self-aware, to drive their careers in the best direction. And so you understand their true talent. What are they really good at?
Right.
From the company perspective.
And if you think of it, that leader that does have those those skills and that natural ability to reach people, to lead empathetically, to really understand how to motivate their people. They might not be the subject matter expert for what their team is doing, and that's okay, because they're not doing that job.
That's right. That they are not the individual contributor in that. They are leading a team, helping them with their skills and the resources they need, the tools they need, the support they need. So they're really the support role, the leader. They're the coach. They're not the players on the field. You know,
one of my mentors always said to me, I'm the dumbest person in the room, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. No, exactly. I mean, being able to really tap into a diverse team of talent is what we look for. You know, not cloning, not everyone being the same, but the more diverse, you're going to have a stronger team. And the leader's more kind of the orchestrator, or, you know, or the, like I say,
the conductor. I always say I'm the quarterback.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm happy to be the quarterback. All right. So we talked about men, we talked about women. How do men leaders differ from the women? Yeah.
So in our research, and we researched North America and Western Europe in my second book, and what we found was really surprising. So men leaders, we measure 11 different risks. Men tend to be upstagers, egotists, and rule breakers. Okay. Meanwhile, the women are worriers, was their highest risk. And these are statistically significant in very large pools of individuals. So what this means is men tend to be aggressive, use aggressive, moving against, fighting, and saying, yeah, I can do it, even if they don't know. You know, we've heard those things. But under their risks, they show up that way. They're bravado, they're tough, they seem courageous, all these things. Meanwhile, the women who might be the stronger leader, right, the better contributor, is going inside her head thinking, am I 100% right? Overanalyzing and overthinking. So who do you think gets the promotion?
The man, every time.
Right, because she's pulling herself out of the running. So that's why the title of my book, but we can change this. Women can develop ways, and this is the whole point, to not go there, to know, like I have a little analysis form in my book, or I can send it to anybody who requests it complimentary. How do you analyze your risks? You know, if you tend to go worry and overanalyze, what can you do instead? You know, and also look at, when was the last couple of times I did it? You know, what happened? What was the consequence? But the real important thing is, what can I do differently? And the other thing I want to say with the risks, though, and this is probably the most important thing I'll say, is you must practice something different. You can't just say it. You have to practice under simulated stress. When Joe pushes my button, I usually go quiet because I go inside my head. You have to have a plan, you have to execute, but you have to practice. Because if you don't practice, guess what? You can't just think, oh, I'll do something different. Because you won't.
No, because you have that voice in your head of, you've screwed up, you failed, it's going to happen again. I know it. And so you just.
Right. If we boil down the construct, it's a fear of failure. It's a fear of making a mistake. So we have to help women figure out, what is my plan and what am I going to do instead of going there? And acknowledging I normally go there, but I'm not going to. I'm going to anticipate Joe sets me off or pushes my buttons, but this is how I'm going to have a plan, and I'm going to execute my plan. And I'm not going to react, the way I normally do. But it's kind of that whole awareness. And as I say, that I think the practice is so important, so that you start to feel comfortable asserting yourself in those tight moments, in those tough times. And because normally, like I say, when we see the profiles of those strengths we talked about, women are often, like you said, the better leaders, better at relationships, better at supporting their teams, all of those things. But they fall behind because the men are like, I can do it, and I got this, or stealing credit and all kinds. The funny thing is, the risks are all ineffective. None of them are good, right? They hurt us, whether they're an aggressive or whether they're one that we're seeking affection or whatever it is we're doing, moving away, avoidance. They're all non-productive. But what happens is women get hurt more by their risks than men. Men get propelled forward while women are being held back. Yeah, absolutely. So, but we can help them. Like I said, the good news is if women recognize this in themselves, they can really work on a plan. And what we want them to do is increase their batting average. So there might be times you're still going to worry. It's not going to go away totally.
Right.
But in those important moments in business, or when you're with your team or your boss or your customer, that's when we want to help you, step up and do the right thing, stay calm and do the right thing.
I always say, if it doesn't kill me or put me in jail, I'm going to have to try it.
No, I know.
Okay. So since we measure 10 facets of motivation,
right.
What is the most prevalent of those factors?
Oh, wow. That one's a tough one. It really depends on the culture. Like in Canada, for example, they're most prevalent, believe it or not. And it is not that way stateside in manufacturing and retail.
Mm-hmm.
Their highest of the 10 is companionship and affiliation.
Oh, really?
That doesn't happen in the US. Mostly in the US, depends on the industry. It really is more industry or even somewhat regional, but more industry dependent. Like in the energy industry, it's going to be scientific reasoning, right? It's the number one, because you've got a bunch of engineers and techie people.
Right.
Same with Silicon Valley, it's going to be scientific reasoning. If we're in an advertising firm or newspaper, it might be artistic endeavors, right?
Right.
Now, leaders often have high power and competition too. So you'll get more than one, you'll get, multiples. But really, it is kind of interest. And the other one that I love is amusement and hedonism, right? So like Southwest Airlines or in the entertainment industry, you're going to see high amusement and hedonism. People like to have fun, cut up,
right.
and enjoy and smile a lot. Where banking, on average, their scores are about 5 percentile out of 100 on amusement and hedonism. So when you go in there, if you start cracking jokes or telling stories, they're like, you won't fit into the culture. So in the aggregate, the drivers tell us the living culture of your organization.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
I know when early in my career, I did personality assessments for the company that I worked for to see if that manager, that person was really someone that we should put into management. And I found it really fascinating.
Yeah.
And it does, it really helped me as a leader to recall and see the results that I had.
Good.
So if someone has a risk factor.
Right. Everybody has risk factors, by the way. Everybody has
so when we see we have a risk factor, how do we overcome it? What are some simple steps? And you talked about this earlier, but for those of you that didn't write them down, now's the time to get your pencils out. So what are some simple steps that we could do to overcome our risk?
Well, the first one is, and again, I'll send you this form that they can use, is to identify it. What is it? Of the 11, which risks? And most people have more than one risk, but you'll have one or two that are stronger than the others, right?
Okay.
So let's say, I don't know, pick a risk. Say I'm an upstager.
Right.
Okay, upstager is a person who talks too much, kind of babbles or is talking past people. A lot of salespeople do that. They just keep going when you're like, easy killer. So
give me a minute.
Yeah, I'm an upstager, definitely. But I also have some detached, which sometimes helps. But anyway, so it's that, first of all, knowing it and really thinking about when's the last couple of times I've done this, that it had an adverse effect. It just didn't go well, or it didn't show respect for another person, or other people didn't get to talk, when did, and what happens is upstagers usually get passionate. So they go. So it's thinking about it, catching yourself in the moment. When I start to go there, can I pull it back?
Take a breath.
Better yet is anticipating it and preventing it.
Yeah.
But at least, even if, or like if you're hyper moody is another one. So if you feel your emotions start to go, that's one where you need to nip that one in the bud, right? You need to do some deep breathing. 3, I say 3 in and out deep breaths to help get your composure back. Because if you go into hyper moody, it usually sets off your other risks, right? So, and then also with hyper moody, sometimes even just getting up and changing your position, physically, getting up and getting a glass of water. But again, the whole bottom line is for any of them is knowing it and saying, putting a label on it. My hyper moody is rising. I need to do something. Or I've been detached. I haven't talked to anyone in 20 minutes. I'm overly concerned about this project, or I'm hiding.
Right.
And so I even tell people to put a timer on, like for worriers and detached, like set your watch for 20 minutes and don't go any deeper than that. Then you have to reach out or go do something different. So coming up with these little tactics, but awareness is first. Yes, I do this. And then coming up with a list. Now, of course, in my book, I have all kinds of things people can do to develop in these different risks, all different 11 risks. Now, the women tend to have generally higher worrier, women who are rising. Now, women executives and CEOs, though, are different. I should point that out. Interestingly, women CEOs' risks look just like men's. They're egotists, upstagers, and rule breakers because they're pushing and moving. They're fighters, right?
Well, and also, they were trained by the men too.
Yeah, or they were
emulated
sports,
them,
or they were, when they were raised. These things start from when you're infant on up. Okay, so by the time you're an adult, they kind of are there. So but then the corporate executive women are not. They're not egotists and upstagers, but they are. I mean, they're not egotists or rule breakers, but they are upstagers. But they have really high relationship building on their character, on their strengths. But at least the difference between the worrier and the upstager is at least she can stay engaged in the conversation. The worrier goes quiet.
Yeah.
So that's the problem with the worrier. And like I said, some of the best, highest potential women tend to worry. So we need to help them with that.
For sure. So the last question I have before our rapid fire is, how do people respond to being coached by an avatar?
That's a great question. I could send you, obviously, here's the thing. That some people do struggle a little with it. Most people love it. The reason most people love it and we get great feedback is because they're not getting this feedback anywhere else. You're not going to get it. No company is going to pay for their, admins or their accountants and others to get this type of in-depth assessment and coaching. So they appreciate it. Oh, and the other thing is a lot of your financial and your tech types love it. They actually like it more than a human because they don't want this stuff from a human. They feel safer. It's private.
I was just going to say.
Them. So in that sense, I would say the majority really like it, respond well, and they know it's their way to get some feedback that they need. And we also have developmental action planning modules, career action planning. We even help them understand if they have STEM talent, possibly, right? Wow. So they love that it's very personal. They can take their time. They can go back to it. On the downside, you do get some people like perfectionists. I don't like the lips. I don't like the way the avatar talks. And I'm like, let's see the big picture, though. What is the information you're getting? I know it makes me crazy. We're using the best technology we can today, and they are humanoid, but they're not human. And the other thing is, though, with the feedback, it's not digitally generated. It's actually feedback from real coaches. So we script it all in. It's not just like, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
But it's very personalized. It'll talk to you, Vicki. I see you scored this over here, and it goes into, and it even connects the different data points for a person that they have. So it's really, you ought to try it. I'll have to.
Yeah, I definitely want to try it. Can you argue back with it?
Well, you could. I mean, it's not, that's the other thing. It's not a two-way. It's one way. It's giving you feedback. So,
I think
you could cuss at it all you want.
That's what I was thinking.
But
you could just let it.
Well, the other cool thing is, though, if you don't like your avatar, you can change it. We have about 7 or 8 you can pick from. So you can fire them and get somebody. Well, and they're all different styles in the way they talk.
Yeah, I was going to say, I want a British one.
Yeah, we have a British, we have an Australian. And then we have some that talk, we have an Asian person. If people talk fast, I don't like the ones that talk too fast. I prefer a slower cadence when they talk. And then we also have some videos in there and other visuals that are showing in charts, and any chart that's imported in there is your chart. It's not a generic. It's all about you. So it's pretty cool that way.
Yeah, that is.
But so there is. We do get, and I hate to say it, but a lot of times it's the HR people who tend to be persnickety, because they are more perfectionists. Yeah. Right.
Also, I think they're worried that you're taking their job away.
Well, they actually, though, they can then use the data to make better people decisions on promotion, succession, things like that. So it actually can help them, but
if they
you
use
got to get them past the change and the technology, right?
Right. Okay, time for rapid fire. Okay. So these are just sentence questions, mostly. Yeah, yours are all questions. And just whatever comes to the top of your head, as brief as you can,
okay.
but to the point. I don't want to cut you off. So how do you rate overall leadership effectiveness today?
Poorly.
Yeah.
Really poorly. Because there's too many leaders, 2 reasons. Many leaders are not in the right jobs because they just put them in for wrong reasons. And number 2, the risk factors are running amok. So these ineffective behaviors are impacting performance.
So what I'm seeing too is we had all these people in the last maybe 8 years downsizing. So we got rid of people, and then COVID hit and we had people leave.
Right.
And so now you have new people that are in manager roles that have no idea what they're doing.
Correct. And again, they're not on the right seats on the bus kind of thing.
Yeah, so, right. Because
unless you use scientific measures to really make sure you're right fitting people, in addition to then those other things you're looking at, there's just too many mistakes made.
Yeah.
And the numbers show it for decades since I've been doing this and before. The studies show that only 50 to 75% of leaders are ineffective.
Yeah.
So only 25 to 50% are effective. You wouldn't put up with a piece of equipment like that. You wouldn't invest in a, piece of equipment that only worked half the time.
And you just, even the people that are hiring, I don't think are looking for the right things. When I hired people, I didn't look at their resume to make my decision. I asked them questions. I needed to know about you and your attitude and your mindset and your personality. I can't change any of those things. Right. Quickly, over time, maybe if you see we can change behavior, but you have to want to do that. But, I can teach you software and I can teach you processes.
Exactly. We can teach them the skills. Right. You can't change who they are.
Yeah. So I don't care if you're a perfectionist in PowerPoint. I can teach you that.
Right. Is that important to this job?
Yes.
Kind of thing. So you're right. Spot on.
But if I'm putting you in a leadership where you've got a team and you have 0 people skills, you're not going to be successful.
Exactly.
Okay. Prepare for the future when it comes to talent. What do we do? I think we just started talking about that.
Yeah. I mean, you really have to, I think number 1, become self-aware. Studies show that only 10 to 15% of people are self-aware. So the problem is, and we see this even in college, every college kid I've ever coached as a, favor to a customer or friend was in the wrong major. It's hard to know yourself and what your true talent is. So get a great assessment, understand that, and then go. So getting in the right track, because you want to go by your strengths and then what your passion is. What are your drivers and rewards, right? What motivates you? If you get those 2 things aligned, life will be good. You'll have a great career.
It could be like me and wait till you're 50 by then.
There you go.
And that made college so easy because I knew some of the answers already.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I mean, I did mine at nighttime while I was a parent, so we all have a different path.
And my original idea of what I wanted to do in accounting, and worked 10 years in an accounting group before as a secretary. That 10 years taught me I did not want to be an accountant.
Good. Yeah, that would be like my least pick job would be an accountant. They wouldn't let me in the door.
Why do companies make so many bad selection and promotional decisions? I think we've kind of talked about that.
Yeah, because they're not using scientifically validated assessment measures, and they really need to.
I agree.
Good analytics. They need good analytics, and they don't have them.
Mm-hmm. So what information should you take away from an interview? And I know I started to talk about this, but to really be comfortable and confident that you've got the right person in the right seat.
Again, for me, of course, I have this bias where we use the assessments. So we actually have interview questions based on that too. So what you want to do, you want to make sure that that person, like you said, their innate capabilities, their strengths align with the job. They can develop more skills going further. I'd rather have a lower skilled person who's the right fit than have a highly skilled person who's a pain in the butt. or gets in, and they have other behavioral issues that aren't going to work for you.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure they have that fit and they are motivated. Like, you're not hiring somebody with high amusement and hedonism to work in the bank.
Yeah.
Right.
That's not going to work.
Sure, it's aligned, that they're going to feel satisfied and happy with the work that they're doing, not just a paycheck.
I know the group that I was trying to hire for were managers in a fast food, where that manager had to be a customer service person and, you know, a team lead, and all those things rolled into one. And anybody that had a scientific background where they wanted to just sit in an office with the door closed and please don't knock.
Exactly.
They weren't going to be successful. And
or just a numbers person is not going to be successful. They really had to have that general management and customer face, right? Exactly.
Right. But, you know, again, looking at the resume, this person might look like the person that we should hire, but no.
One other caution. I always tell my clients, you know, interviews can also be kind of a mess, because often people who interview best perform the worst. And people who don't interview well can be a star. You know, they might be sweaty, they might be nervous, they might stutter a little, but they could be a star. And HR people get rid of those people, but they can be the best. So be careful that we don't, you know, everybody's a little different on interviews. You can be oversold and underwhelmed by other people who are really stars. So you need to dig at that better.
And then what would be the ideal client for Nancy Parsons?
The ideal client for me would be, you know, really mid-sized to large company, but even we work with small companies who want to develop their people, who want to really know the true talent, kind of do an inventory of talent, but also help each person individually grow in the right ways, in the best ways that match both that person's interests and the company's interests. Awesome. But I also think for the future, if you don't have a full inventory of your talent, you're losing. Because you could be recruiting somebody externally, yet have somebody better inside and you don't even know it. And it's hard to compete for talent, and talent's going to get tighter and tighter. You're better off to develop your own, because they like your brand, they like you, they know your customers. So for me, it's companies that want to develop their talent top to bottom.
Yeah. And those people that are in your camp already, you need to get to know them.
Exactly. And this is a good way. And then we do like team workshops afterwards using the data. You know, it's really a lot of fun. And people love their own data too, whether they get it by the avatar or we still do live coaching, you know, for the senior people. We still do live coaching, but now we can reach everyone, which is kind of cool.
Awesome. All right. This is time for me to warn those that are just listening in that if you haven't grabbed your pencil and paper, please do so. I'm going to share Nancy's contact information. All right. So we have contact information is, let me just move this a little bit to the side, cdrcompanies.com. And she's on LinkedIn. Just look up Nancy Parsons. And I'm going to let you talk about your gift that you have, or gifts.
Yes. So I have two free videos. I did a conference called How to Conquer Your Inner Victim. And that deals with several of the risks we talked about today. Are you a perfectionist? Are you a worrier? Are you a pleaser?
Right.
And helps women especially overcome that. And then another video that was done by a local TV station here, how personality analysis can help employees find the right fit in their job, kind of the things we were talking about there too.
Awesome. And you did also talk about your book again.
Yes. And the book goes into all the risks and talks about the differences between men and women leaders, but really does an analysis of all the risks. It also introduces strengths as well as motivation, but helps people to overcome their risks, to really build a plan so they'll be more effective and they won't miss out on those promotions or get overlooked and that sort of thing. So and I really, of course, I want to help women because the numbers are terrible in terms of women really being promoted to top levels. But I think a big part of it is we're pulling ourselves out of the running. And I think, you know, we can stop doing that.
And I think the tide is changing. And, that's why I got into this. And I'm sure that's your motivation too, is that we're tired of this, and we know it can And it can change, but I always think you can't talk about change. You have to be the change. So
Exactly.
here
I
we
agree
go.
100%.
It has been just so wonderful talking with you. I seem to get some wonderful guests, and you are definitely one of them.
Oh,
You've
thank
got
you.
great tips, you've got great information, and being a user and understander of how impactful assessments are, believe her and use her. If you have a mid-size or large company, you need to get with the with Nancy and CDR. This is something that will help you, especially now where we can't afford to make mistakes right now. Till we rebuild a lot of companies, we've got to get this right. And your employees will thank you, and your business bottom line will thank you for sure. So thank you so much. I always end by reminding everyone that life is a journey, and it is up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Nettling signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Nettling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.